I love ants. What do I mean by that? When I see an ant, it makes me profoundly happy. Like when you love a person, you just know. And you're trying to stay close. And that's exactly what I did. But I didn't always know I loved ants. I was actually on a very different career path. This is 2007. I'm a student at the Vienna University of Economics and Business. I care about figuring out how to make a lot of money. I dream of owning a Porsche and living a jet-set life. I like nature, but I have no concept of it. I'm terrified of most bugs. I freak out at the sight of a spider, a bee, or a wasp. And I mean jog around the house screaming, freak out. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that. But most importantly, I know absolutely nothing about ants, except maybe that there are red ones and black ones, although I'm not sure I knew about the red ones. So what happened? I went on an exchange semester, and I took a biology class because it was possible, and I thought it could be interesting. Our teachers were ant experts, and so I learned about ants. And what I learned was crazy. I learned about jumping ants. I learned how an ant colony is organized, how they work as a team, how strong they are, how persistent. This all made a huge impression on me. But what exactly made me fall in love with them? I don't know. It just happened. And this was very unexpected for me and for everybody around me, because suddenly I didn't care about the Porsche anymore. I cared about nature, and I paid attention, probably for the first time. And I wanted to devote my life to ants, as weird as that sounds. I was ready to live in the jungle and sell bananas for a living as long as somebody would teach me about ants. Well, it ended up not being the jungle and bananas, but the Natural History Museum in Vienna, where I found my first teacher. I learned about the field of taxonomy, and I learned the basic of ants. Taxonomy is the description and naming of new species. I continued to the US, where I did my doctorate at North Carolina State University. For my research, I traveled all over the world: Borneo, Ethiopia, Florida. And while I was doing all that, I became a myrmecologist, a scientist who studies ants. This is me excavating an ant nest that ended up being 3.5 meters deep. So ants, why are they so interesting? Ants have been very successful on this planet. In business school, I learned that a measure of success is when others try to imitate you. Well, in that regard, ants must be very successful because there's many, many creatures that mimic ants. None of these are ants. But there are other signs of their success. Ants have been around for a long time, and they exist almost everywhere on the planet. Only in very cold environments and in open water, there are no ants. Usually, because there are some very cool exceptions. Ants also provide important ecosystem services. They are soil engineers. They aerate the soil, they help water infiltration, they also bring nutrients into the soil. They are important predators and scavengers, which means that they help to balance ecosystems. Ants also have some very intimate relationships with other organisms. Many animals, some fungi, but most importantly plants. They protect them, they help them to disperse seeds, and they also pollinate them. Overall, ants also contribute to food webs as a food source for other animals, especially young queens and males, which are both winged leave the nest when it's time to mate in great numbers. Most of these young queens won't manage to found a colony, and for males, mating is their only task anyways. They don't return to the nest. So most of them end like this male here. This is a robber fly that's eating a male ant. We may not see all of these ecosystem services, but we certainly see their benefits. I can assure you that if ants disappeared from one day to the next, we would notice. Ants are also incredibly diverse. There are 15,000 ant species on Earth. That is 3 times as many ant species as all mammal species combined. There's a lot of strange behavior and looks. Here's an ant with fish hook-shaped spines that also work like fish hooks. They're a defense against predators. Here's another ant with very similar spines. Here's an exploding ant. She attaches herself to an intruder and explodes, which means that the attacker is then covered in toxic goo. This ant has a heart-shaped butt. This one, a recurved one. This one is super well armored. And this one is covered in thick, dot-like hairs and has these elongated trap jaw-shaped mandibles. Though when it comes to trap jaws, this is the one that is the most impressive one for me. This one is also called a trap jaw ant. There are many different species, and they also ended up being the ants that I did most of my research on. They can close their jaws super fast. It's one of the fastest movements in animal kingdom. And when they do that against a flat surface or the ground, it propels them backwards and they jump. They do this to escape threats. Some trapjaw ants can also jump forward using their legs. This is actually something I discovered during a research trip in Borneo. And this ant here is actually in a closely related genus, and jumping hasn't been recorded at all from them. But I took this picture and I have some videos and it seems like they do it. Okay, so ants are definitely pretty cool. But what I find fascinating is how many similarities there are with humans. Ants are social, they live in big groups just like us. So they also face a lot of the same challenges when it comes to food, shelter, disease control, or decision-making. Like us, ants have division of labor. Ant workers, which are all female, by the way, perform a range of tasks according to their age, experience, and physical ability. These 2 ants belong to the same colony and also the same species, of course. Ants farm. Some species grow a fungus that represents their main food source. They collect the leaves to grow the fungus, so it's a substrate for the fungus. Ants keep livestock. They milk sap-sucking insects, which excrete honeydew, a sugary substance. They will keep herds of aphids or mealybugs, for instance. Ants also build nests with complex architecture. Clever roof structures, ventilation shafts, trash areas, and some even have toilets. Ants also perform surgeries. Ants will also go into quarantine when it's necessary. Some ants will even rearrange the nest to make space for such quarantine areas. And some ants are trying to take over the world, which should sound familiar to us. This is a pharaoh ant. But the big difference is that ants have been around for a lot longer than we have. The first ant existed about 150 million years ago. Ants have diversified about 100 million years ago into the many species we see today. In comparison, modern humans exist for about 200,000 years. So what is the key to their success? If you think it's being ruled by a queen, I must disappoint you. There are many jobs in an ant colony. Being queen is one of them. It's an important one. She is the only one that can produce female offspring, but every job is important so the whole colony can work. The key to the success of ants is actually flexibility and self-organization. Self-organization works because every ant does what is needed. If there's a nest wall to repair, she will do that. If another ant needs help carrying back food to the nest, she will do that. And if there's nothing to do, she will do nothing. She rests until the situation changes again. Flexibility is key. And all of this works because ants all have the same goal, the survival and well-being of the colony. Okay, if I wanted to take some notes for myself based on what ants do, then here are some ideas. A single ant makes no sense without her colony. She's willing to do anything for her colony. It's her identity. She cares. So, commitment is key. Do it or don't do it. And I know this. If I'm doing something I don't care about, it's less likely that I'll do a great job at it. But if I'm doing something I love, then there's a completely different energy associated with it. Flexibility is an important element of why ants are so successful. And this kind of makes sense. There's no point trying to do something when it's just not the time to do it. For whatever reason. Maybe the creative energy is just not there. Then it's better to do something else. Or do nothing. I'm not particularly good at this. Ants always work as a team. And there's a reason. Teamwork works. That means it's okay to get help. I don't need to do everything alone. And this is something I often forget. And then on an even more personal level, ants have taught me to look and to remember that I am part of nature. And as I remembered that, I also noticed the way we treat nature is not great. The smallest creatures are the ones we know the least about. And while we don't even know yet who they are, most insects haven't been named yet, let alone studied, they are disappearing. And this is happening at our doing. And finally, ants have shown me what it means to listen to my heart and to follow my passion. So today, I'm not afraid of bugs anymore. I learned to notice the small world that is everywhere around us and to see its weirdness and craziness. And I invite you to do the same. Let's look, let's explore, let's get to know this tiny world. It is so worth it. Thank you.